evening, everyone. Looks like we have a nice crowd here tonight. Hopefully, all here for the same reason as me. I want to start out by saying I'm not here to complain. I think that you all know I have been one of the biggest supporters of the city council and our mayor and the city in general. So I'm just here to voice an opinion. I have a concern that there's a possibility that Marty Shanahan could be removed tomorrow night and another interim manager hired, which will probably cost the city a good $100,000. Then a search for another manager, which will probably cost us $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 again. And I guess my biggest thing is Marty's done so much for our city and so much for the residents. I want to know why. Why would we make a decision like this? I want to go over a few things about Marty. A little point here. Marty's done double duty several times now, and the last time he basically saved us $90,000 when Mr. Hales was removed. Had we had to hire someone else in, we would have had to pay that out. In September of 2017, our newly acquired and city-owned Evergreen Terrace flooded. Marty Shanahan came and assisted the residents out of the flood that happened there. Sorry for my pauses with my sheets. Between 2016 and 2018, the city collected $916,000 in revenue from truck enforcements, overweight tickets. This was done by Marty. In the last 50 years, there has never been a citywide comprehensive plan. There's one in process now. Again, thanks to Marty. In 2019, Marty reopened the state legislative dialogue with Joliet, bringing Joliet's opinions to the table for legislation. In 2018, he negotiated land swaps and an IGA with the Will County so that we could have the state's attorney building demolished in time for all the awesome fests that we have downtown Joliet. Again, pardon my pause. On top of that, he has volunteered for so many things. Christmas parade, prison events, Men Who Cook, the Guardian Angel Home Dancing with the Local Stars. He was in that. He produced and sang and danced to a song called I Know Joliet. Membership representation for Will County Center for Economic Development, Joliet Area Regional Chamber of Commerce, Administrators Group, Kendall County Mayors and Managers, Will County Governmental League. You know, there's just way too much to even mention here, and I don't want to go overboard. There's pages of this, but I'm just asking again, why would anyone consider removing a man who has devoted so much of his time and obviously cares about our city so very much? To replace him cost the taxpayers more money to have an interim, and then even more money to probably get another Hales, and I hate to bring it up, but it was just such a bad choice. So that's all I have to say for me, and I do have one little thing. One of our residents that wanted to come, another lifelong resident, Kathleen Maychak, said this: I'm going to be out of town, please give my opinion. Marty has done a great job, why waste money on it? Search when a local person with on-the-job experience that is doing a good job and seems to care about the community is right in front of your eyes. Wake up, people. You see what happened when you hire out of town, not really knowing the true track record. We are lucky to have such a person whom does such a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Marybeth Gannon.
Thank you. You know, I've been going back and looking at all the city council meetings since we were lucky enough to have Marty here. And one of them in particular kind of caught my eye. Mayor Bob was thanking Marty for everything he had done, and you all sat here, all of you with the exception of Ms. Reardon, and clapped your hands very hard and thanked him. I don't know what's changed. You talk about transparency, yet you don't give it to us. He's done a stellar job. When we look back at February of this year, when it was so cold, you know who was out there with one of our snowplow drivers? Marty. Overnight, several hours, when he could have been home with his wife and his darling children, but he was out there. I don't know how many other city managers would do that. Now, I'd like to echo off something that Kathy Spieler had mentioned, and you know, how he went to, did we mention that? Evergreen Terrace when it flooded. He went there. Did any of you go there? If you didn't, please let us know. But Marty went. Just like when he went out when it was cold and most of us were at home. That's the kind of guy he is. A little bit more on Marty's background that I've learned and am very impressed by. Marty's handled many matters which have not been addressed or have been avoided for years, if not decades. We had 2 sanitary districts that were not in corporate boundaries of Joliet, but we were treating their sewer. The city wasn't getting paid. You know who fixed that? Marty. He stopped the practice of vacation banking for City Hall employees, saving taxpayers thousands, if not millions, of dollars. When the city annexes property, a fee is paid to the city, and the city is supposed to reimburse the fire protection districts. The fee had not been paid to surrounding fire protection districts in many years. I don't know if any of you noticed that, but Marty did. Marty reached an agreement, and he avoided a lawsuit for this city. I read a Herald News article that said, I'm not saying not to get Marty, I'm just saying open up the process. Well, why would you get rid of him when he's interim? Why have another interim? It makes no sense. You want to waste our money, which is precious. You know, have you all been open with constituents? I see so many articles throwing him under the bus over the slammers, yet the stadium committee did not have a meeting for many, many months. I don't call that open and transparent. This is a family man, and he does a darn good job, and please don't waste our money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on an agenda item?
Hello, my name is Marla Polito, and I'm a resident within the city of Joliet. I am here this evening to voice my concern of the possibility of not keeping Marty Shanahan on as city manager of Joliet. If anyone here is not aware, Mr. Shanahan has been the interim city manager on and off for 16 months. I've had the pleasure of knowing Marty for the past 6 or 7 years. Some say I might be biased, and maybe I am just a bit. But because I know him, I can honestly stand here and tell you without a doubt that this is a man that's good for Joliet. Not only is he a great husband and father, but he possesses the qualifications that make a great city manager. He has unfailing determination. And one example being, and I'm sorry if I'm reiterating, but Marty implemented a truck enforcement program with the Joliet Police Department. Prior to 2016, there was no overweight truck permits. 2016 to present time, this city has now collected over $1 million in overweight truck permits. If that's not determination, I don't know what is. Marty possesses creativity, introducing new and fresh ideas. He attends meetings, public events, he mingles with the public while listening to the concerns of his employers as well as the taxpayers of Joliet. Personally, I don't know when this man sleeps. Marty does these things because he genuinely cares. It's who he is. It's part of him, which brings me to integrity, a quality that I find extremely important in an individual having this type of position. And Marty Shanahan, he is integrity. Some of you may not always agree on everything that Marty does, and I feel that's okay. I'm sure each and every one of you don't always agree on each other's ideas, but you work together to do what's best. I think what we can agree on is that Marty Shanahan has worked very hard, as you can see from his list of accomplishments, and will continue to do great things for you and for all of you and for all of us as city manager of Joliet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on an agenda item, sir?
I came here tonight, council members and mayor, in my support of Mr. Shanahan and against his removal from the city manager position. My main objection to Mr. Shanahan being removed is the exact clarity for the exact reason why and the process that's going to be handled moving forward. And I think such a disruption to this city and to everything that's going on within the city right now needs an exact reason why. Why is it necessary? Council members have stated their desire to have an open process. I understand that that's a common thing when you're going through a new hire. It's something many businesses do, corporations, cities do. Cities have different obligations than corporations and private businesses. But not every city manager that's hired throughout the city or throughout the state has those obligations. I don't know that it's been truly stated for the reason he needs to be removed from office. There's also been discussion about Marty having an opportunity to win the job in the future. It's unfortunate to me that, as was mentioned, if we have a temporary hire at city manager, how long is he going to be a city manager for? Cost probably $80,000 to $100,000 for that time period. So if we go through that process, we hire a search firm. Through that search firm, we're going to hire a temporary city manager. Is that temporary city manager going to have any idea what's going on in the city? Are they going to know anybody in city departments? Are they going to have any local contacts at all? Is their the main purpose for hiring a temporary city manager just simply so then we avoid the conflict of interest, so then we can open up the process? You know, that doesn't seem like a real sensible way to spend the city's money. Also, if we do hire this temporary city manager, from what's been stated as my understanding, we're going to have a very similar process to the way that we hired the previous city manager. So the last city manager was on the job for 11 months, and my best accounting, roughly $400,000 was spent on that man between moving expenses, severance pay, salary, and his vehicle fee for that time while he was city manager. How can the citizens know that this process is going to be different? From what I understand, the current plan is to hire the same HR firm. HR firms, search firms, basically what they have is they have a drawer of names. They pull them out, they give them to the cities. They help with the hiring process a little bit, but basically you're going to get the same list of names. Maybe, I don't know because nobody said it. Maybe last time somebody impressed you during the hiring process, and you kind of have, maybe that would be a good person to hire this time. But that hasn't been stated. And I think the number one thing is we need transparency, we need a clear plan, and the citizens deserve to have the best person to be hired for the job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Most of you know me. My name is Jan Nahorsky. I'm a city employee, graffiti abatement officer, but I'm also a citizen of the city of Joliet. I live at 116 Dwight Avenue in the Reedwood neighborhood. I just want to say that if you folks are talking about saving money for the citizens of Joliet, but then you go out and get a search firm for somebody that is as qualified as Marty already, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. And I'm just going to repeat what a lot of these people already have said. You spent how many hundreds of thousands of dollars for the search for our last city manager, and I had to tell him where Rayner Avenue was at so he could come to my Reedwood Neighborhood Association meeting. That's what you're gonna get. You don't need that with Marty. Marty is already Jolietan, and he's going to be the best city manager that we've had. I also, as an employee, feel like I have walked into his office at any time, and there's no uppity feeling and all that. He's one of ours. So I really would hope that you reconsider the opposition against Marty Shanahan to be city manager, and please vote in his favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to see a show of hands, how many people are here for him?
Sure.
Would you want to ask?
Councilwoman Coleman has requested if you are here in support of interim city manager Martin Shanahan, if you could raise your hand.
Wow. Thank you.
Since we have no one else that would like to speak, we'll pass it over to interim city manager Marty Shanahan.
Except for one item, it's pretty vanilla.
If I can, Marty, there's a proclamation that I was supposed to get Friday, and the vendor didn't make it. I think we're gonna do that tomorrow at the beginning, but it's not on the agenda right now.
Okay, I'm going to run through the agenda for tomorrow. There are a number of proclamations. Finance, Public Service, and Stadium Committee, council committees will provide their reports. On the consent agenda, there are 6 items. Approval of minutes, invoices paid, position vacancies, and 4 payroll approvals. Excuse me, 3 payroll approvals. Liquor license, there's 1 liquor licensing matter on the agenda. Representatives from Levy and Chicagoland Speedway are both here, but at this time I'd like to invite Chris Regis to discuss.
Thank you. Everyone up here should have the literature on that, the memo, and tell me if you don't. At the Chicagoland Speedway, inside the infield, there's a large grassy area where RVs park, and there is a couple of convenience stores there.
I don't know if we have it, Chris.
I'm sorry, it should have been attached. It comes out of the mayor's office.
Blame me.
And the,
All your fault.
Councilman, it should be on your iPad.
On the iPad, okay, yeah.
thank you. I'm sorry.
Make us wrong, huh?
So there are 2 convenience stores there that cater to the RV crowd who camps out on the infield during the big race weekends, and those convenience stores would like to sell beer. The ordinance indicates that when someone wants to, they already have a license for the facility as a whole, but they'd like packaged liquor added for the purpose of those 2 convenience stores. And the ordinance says that transfer needs to go to council for approval. That's all they're asking for, is to be able to sell beer out of their convenience stores. You may note on the memo that inspections are not completed yet. That's because they are renovating those buildings in anticipation of the big weekend, and no license will be issued until inspections have approved the facility. And Ken Kors is here from the Speedway if there are any questions for him specifically. Otherwise, we're asking for council approval for that transfer of class.
Any questions?
Okay, under ordinance, Council Memo 321-19, ordinance declaring certain properties public nuisances. 1114 Holmes Avenue, 1416 Fairview Avenue, 1260 Elizabeth Street, 223, 225 Cassidy Avenue, 111 3rd Avenue, 1215 Arthur Avenue, and 1906 Glacier Ridge Drive. Council Memo 322-19, ordinances associated with the Boulevard subdivision to be tabled to July 16. Council Memo 323-19, ordinances associated with Menard's Joliet re-subdivision to be tabled to July 2nd. Council Memo 324-19, ordinance approving the annexation of 2.81 acres located at 25722 Caton Farm Road. This is to be withdrawn. Council Memo 325-19, ordinance approving the annexation of 40 acres at the northeast corner of Route 59 and Theodore Street, classification to B3, and approval of annexation to be tabled to July 16th. Council Memo 326-19, ordinance approving a special use permit to allow the installation of an electric fence as an accessory use for the existing business located at 1965 Terminal Court. This is the FedEx Freight Distribution Center, and this is requested by Electric Guard Dog. So if you recall, Electric Guard Dog did appear before the council and helped guide the city with electric security fencing requirements. This specific location at 1965 Terminal Court has an 8-foot high fence with a 10-foot electric fence, 12 inches inside of the existing 8-foot fence. Zoning board approved and recommended approval, and no one spoke in opposition.
Mayor?
Yes.
Marty, do we know why we need if we did vote on it some time back and introduced the new ordinance, are they varying from the ordinance?
Council Memo 327-19, ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a mini self-storage facility building located at 250 Southeast Frontage Road. This proposal is to remodel the former Elks Motel into a self-storage facility. The property is B3, and this use is allowed in a B3 zoning with the approval of a special use. Council Memo 328-19, ordinance amending the 2019 annual budget and request for authorization to approve amendment number 1 to the contract for municipal enforcement software. This is for municipal software for integrations with third-party vendors. Since funds were not budgeted, a budget amendment is necessary. The total is up to $100,000. Under resolutions, Council Memo 330-19, resolution authorizing a CDBG subrecipient agreement with Holston Human Capital Development NFP for up to $90,000. Holston Human Capital Development is the only agency in the Riverwalk Homes complex that provides case management services to the community's adult population. Council Memo 331-19, resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, Tourism Marketing Old Joliet Prison Historic Site. This is a match grant for $22,000. The local match will be provided by the Joliet Area Historical Museum. Council Memo 332-19, resolution authorizing the acceptance of a grant from Will County Stormwater Planning Committee for the Wet Weather Treatment Plant Bioretention Basin Project. This grant funding was obtained, and this will be at no additional cost to the city. And that amount is $22,000. Under bids and contracts, these were reviewed by Public Service Committee, who will report on any issues tomorrow. And I have no other comments on the agenda.
Next is public comments.
Yes. Yep.
John Hurtko, member of the Environmental and Water Commission of Joliet. On April 23rd of this year, I had the opportunity to speak to the council after our joint meeting, and I stand by my comments. You did a terrific job, you participated, and it went very well. However, we have a divergent opinion. At our meeting of June 11th, Wayne Horn is here with me, and Gary Davidson shared this sentiment. I walked away after talking to every council member on April 23rd, what was important. And what was important is that Joliet controlled its destiny with a water supply. And looking at all the facts that were accumulated for over a year, it appeared that Lake Michigan was the logical choice. Okay. Now, at our meeting of June 11th, as we looked at the agenda, we are still spending city funds, engineering, and schematics, looking at, for example, the Dupage Water Commission. Now, we knew 10 weeks ago the Dupage Water Commission would require the taxpayers to pay for the pipeline to their connection. Maybe $100 million. We would have to pay for their improvements. We then get to buy the water from them, and then we cannot continue the pipeline and sell it because we turn ownership over to them. I just think it's a bad deal, and I want to do my due diligence and bring this to your attention, okay? Now, here's why the council is smart in controlling our water destiny. Last Friday evening, and I don't know what caused it, in University Park, Moni, and Green Garden, the lead levels went up so high that the water had to be turned off. And that water was provided by Aqua Illinois, which, hey, don't get me wrong, it's a good company, okay? But the nursing homes, the residents, the lead levels were so high. Some people might say this is reminiscent of Flint, Michigan. So you're real smart in wanting the people of Joliet to control their destiny. But I don't think what is smart is having this shotgun approach. I think we have to narrow it down even further, and we've been told through email that the corporate council has said that since you did not vote on it, you did not give us any specific direction, that we might have came away with a consensus, but it's not a valid one, okay? So I would like to bring this to your attention, and I would also ask that whoever is organizing the meeting with Lori Lightfoot's office from the city of Chicago, okay, that meeting could be private, but if it is a public meeting, then I would appreciate it if we could be notified to attend. So what I'm asking is that the council give us some better direction. Any questions?
Allison, two questions. Where are we exactly in the process, and when do you expect the committee to get a recommendation from the firm that we've hired?
So the phase 2 study, which the scope of work was approved by the Environmental Commission and the City Council, had identified 5 alternative sources that, based on water quality and quantity, should be evaluated further during phase 2. So that is what is ongoing right now. It's a major undertaking to collect that level of information. Most specifically, cost data has not been provided on any of the alternatives. So the current schedule is that that information will be provided to the council and environmental commission at a joint workshop in November. But prior to then, we would not have the information available to provide that to the council.
Do you think another, I thought the meeting that we had about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I thought was real productive. I got positive feedback from the Environmental Commission. Would there be cause to have another meeting? If for nothing else, just to have the council kind of weigh in on some of the decisions that are going to need to be made by both the committee and then eventually the council?
Yes, I mean, we would not have any new information to present at a meeting, but we could have another, joint workshop to further discuss the options. We've been at the Environmental Commission meetings having presentations by each of the potential water sources and their suppliers. So there might be benefit to providing more detailed information, but we will not have I think the big takeaway from the April meeting is that there is a lot of information that goes into making this decision, and all of that information will not be available until November.
Okay. One last question, and thank you. And again, this is open-ended, I don't mean to imply anything. Are we maybe going too deep into this? Are there things that we could eliminate that we're spending money on investigating? Or do you think it's best, because it's a big decision, to have the most comprehensive look at it that we could take?
I think in order to make, like you said, it's a very big decision to choose a water source for us, so a community of our size and potentially the region. And taking any shortcuts to not collect all of the data that would be important to making that decision, I fear then that would lead us to not be able to say it was a defensible decision without having all the information available.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Quick question, Allison. You had mentioned again tonight, and I recall that from our April meeting, that we had narrowed it down to 5 options. But I'm hearing that we're going to pay the consultant to come up with 14 different cost estimates. Can you explain that?
So with each option, we would provide an option for Joliet only, and then also a cost estimate for the regional option, so that information could be used in the decision making. On some of those options, such as the Kankakee River, and also the Southland Water Agency, there's variations on how that could be structured. So that's why it's not 5 cost estimates, because of all of the variables that are going into the options.
I'd just like to add that, and this is my analogy, okay? If it's the council's wish to control the destiny of our water supply, a decision could be made today. Okay? If you want to continue doing engineering to the Dupage Water Commission, knowing that in 6 months, they're going to say, hey, listen, you spent $100 million on running a pipeline, it's ours now. We knew 10, 12 weeks ago that we would not be allowed to be a regional supplier by going to the Dupage Water Commission. So the simple analogy I put it to is that if you go out shopping for cars and your spouse says she wants a moonroof, you're not looking at cars that don't have a moonroof. You have to make these decisions, and the longer that they go, I'm not saying to take a shortcut by any means, okay? But when William Shakespeare said a rose by any other name is just as sweet, he wasn't referring to the Des Plaines River. So I'm just thinking that we need some more direction. I think what you're suggesting is getting together. It's just like calling a timeout in a game or a halftime adjustment, or as they're building the Will County Courthouse here, they've had any number of pauses as they got everybody on the same page, okay? So that's my opinion. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Mayor, I have a request, if you don't mind. Allison, if we can have some indication, because I think for some, okay, I'll speak for myself, certainly it's going to weigh heavy on my decision on self-determination and the ability to defray hundreds of millions of dollars in cost by selling to many of the smaller communities. I know that can be done just off the top with an allotment through Lake Michigan. When I look at, and I've attended parts of several meetings, that the not Des Plaines, I don't think anybody wants the Des Plaines, but the Kankakee or the Illinois River has so many low flow days, I don't see that it would, we need a determination of whether there's any chance whatsoever that we can resell to any number of communities off the rivers, or that's just going to meet our needs.
So the low flow days is a very important consideration when looking at the 2 river options, and that is part of the phase 2 study. So if we did receive information that the 1 river options would not be sustainable original option, we would present that information, and I agree at that time, the quantity of water available would not meet our needs, and there is no reason to study it further. The Illinois State Water Survey is currently conducting that modeling, so we will have that information available to present in the near future. But as far as the issue of control, we do have the results. We had a kind of a survey that we did of the Council on Environmental Commission at that last workshop. So if we were to have another workshop, we could present that information. And many people indicated that control was important, but also the other factors such as risk and cost and being able to maintain the project schedule were also very important. So I can arrange that workshop, and we can just present any information we have about those options, as well as talk about the further those decision criteria.
And we'll continue probably to keep from a distance an eye on what's happening with Aqua Illinois with their lead problems out east of us, right? Since they are one of the 5 considerations, that concerns me.
Yes, I'll just comment that the lead does not come from the source water, so the Kankakee River itself does not have elevated lead levels in it. It is from the corrosion of the piping materials. So that would be, of course, something that would be considered.
Okay, because what's interesting about the media reports I read over the weekend is that spokespeople for the Aqua Illinois said that it was not the pipes. So something is not adding up there, so we have to be very, very vigilant and very careful in watching that as an option.
Okay.
Do you anticipate any legal action in those communities? I know that they said it's not the pipes. I'm not sure what else it could be. From a layman's point of view.
Yeah, we've been trying to reach out to Aqua to better understand, their scenario. Again, I'll just say that in Joliet, we have a very proactive response to lead on our doing an inventory and providing water quality testing for free to any residents. So we're trying to get a better understanding of what happened in their system. What we can surmise from our professional opinion is that, there was some change to their water chemistry that led to a more corrosive water that led to increased levels of lead. So,
thank you.
If I may add, some questions were raised about Flint, Michigan, and we were given material, okay? We have some of the best plumbers and pipe fitters in the world here in the Joliet area. Ductile iron is used as a transmission line. 0 lead content. Those lines that use stainless steel, 0 lead content. The connectors that connect them, 0 lead content. When the city of Joliet comes to your new house or your new building and taps the ductile iron, they put a fitting on there, put a compression, 0 lead content. Lead in solder has been banned since 1986. So whenever I hear people say it's not the water source, it's the pipes, well, I'm not a believer in alchemy, okay? And it's basic chemistry, okay? When you draw from the river, you got to consider everyone upstream of you and what they're dumping in. And we said it at our April 23rd meeting. What gets dumped in the Des Plaines is the Metropolitan Chicago Sanitary District, the Dupage Sanitary District, and other stuff. So here again, I believe by a process of elimination, rather than having 14, we could get down to 7, maybe 6, maybe 5, and move the process, call a little timeout and reevaluate, and that's what a good team and a good coach does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak under public comments?
Good evening. First, I got a point of order question. The agenda, item 13, we bounced over and went right to public comment. Is there a reason for that? I mean, I've got the agenda. I think I got the right agenda for tonight. Went right to public comment, bounced over it. Anybody?
No, I said I didn't have any comments on that.
So that's not going to be discussed then? Okay. No transparency at City Hall. Short time ago, analysis done by the Better Government Association found the City of Joliet and Will County Sheriff's Office were among the worst offenders when it comes to improperly exempting public records requested under Freedom of Information Act, commonly known as FOIA. The city improperly applied exemption rules 58% of the time. That's approximately 6 out of 10 requests get denied improperly. What's the city hiding? That's the city manager's job to see the laws are followed. The Brian Agra fiasco, allegedly stealing $14,000 overtime and no felony charges pursued, that money belongs to the taxpayers. In addition to the $45K for sitting at home making a mockery of the whole process. Let's just for 1 minute assume the process is correct. No attempt has been made to close the loophole, so it doesn't happen again. Again, that's the city manager's job. Hiding information from the public about employees being tested positive for steroids. A lawsuit had to be filed to get the documents turned over to the person. Again, 6 out of 10 requests get denied improperly. The filling of high salary jobs without posting the positions ended up going to friends of friends. That's the city manager's job to see it done properly. There's an ordinance on nepotism, but it's time for a legislative committee to draft one on cronyism. Yes, Councilman Hugg, I do agree with you on the prison situation. The issue of the city dumping money into the prison without full disclosure to city council and taxpayers is totally wrong. I appeared before the council at least twice in this issue asking a cost-benefit analysis to be done on the project. And you're right, well over $1 million. Again, the city manager's job is to have full disclosure on these projects, and total cost should be given to the council and taxpayers of Joliet. And I'm surprised, frankly, that you are supporting a person who does that type of secrecy. While I support the project, it should be done with volunteers, proceeds from the fundraisers, and grants, not city money. And last, the latest attempt for the ballpark agreement, keeping the agreement from the whole city council. This deal was signed on the evening of May 2nd, but yet no information was given to the city council. It was heard on May 21st city council meeting when the slammers announced it at this podium. It's the city manager's job to keep the city council informed and not hide details of the agreement. After all, interim city manager violated 2 council memos / resolutions that he himself wrote to keep the full agreement from the stadium committee, city council, and the taxpayers. City of Joliet doesn't need a city manager that does not follow the city ordinances. Let's not forget the settlement about the car accident with the mayor. Yes, insurance companies handle the settlement, but the city pays the premiums and the settlement should be approved by the city council. Premiums are set by payouts, plain and simple. There was no disclosure to the council or taxpayers. Again, that's the city manager's job. City of Joliet should not operate in secrecy, and the city does not need a city manager that operates in this fashion. I support the council's decision to remove Mr. Shanahan as interim city manager. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Good evening. I really hadn't planned on speaking, but in 1991, when Mayor Art Schultz was elected, we had a meeting at Bella's Restaurant. The mayor wasn't a big fan of John Mesro, but we had a meeting there. And subsequently, over the next couple of years, there were several meetings held because the council war had started, which Mike Turk is well aware of. In which there was support for John Messer and there were those who didn't support him. There were meetings held all over because the mayor and I took Bob Unison, late Councilman Bob Unison, and another city councilman to Bella's bar, and he told us what was going on. You know, this war is getting out of hand. They wanted to try and broker those who supported John Messer, those who didn't. As it was well documented, and Mike Turk recalls, during the 90s, they wanted to get rid of the dump over on I-80. I got a call from Joe Ward. He said, I own that city council. I own that city manager. I need you to deliver Councilman Ledesma and Councilman Hacker because they're opposing it. And we want those jobs, the operating engineers. We want to get rid of the Teamsters. And so that was well documented because if you recall, I did an interview with the Southtown Daily, and I said, call for a federal investigation. Let's get everybody questioned by the feds, because if you lie to the feds, you're in serious trouble. So these council wars started back then. And I had a good relationship with Tom Thanis. My relationship with John Mesro was rocky. But I can say in my 35 years, the one man who had honesty and integrity was Marty Shanahan. We not always agreed on different things we discussed, but he was a man of integrity. And, I didn't see anybody that came up and questioned over $400 million of expenditures over those in the 90s or early 2000s that the city council spent from Riverboat Gaming. Not one time. Or question what was going on at the city. Or even a few years back when we had a city councilman who used city stamps and envelopes and talked about how ethical that was. I didn't hear anybody from the public come up and criticize him. What concerns me now, though, is all the things going on in the background. People that aren't on the city council getting involved in the process. I just want to say that I've had 35 years of experience. I was part of those council wars. I stood with Mayor Schultz back in those days, as Mike Turk is well aware, and they were some nasty wars. A lot of politicking that was going on, a lot of wheeling and dealing that shouldn't have gone on, and I don't want to see that happen again. I think Marty's done a good job. I think he's been a very good city manager. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Mayor?
Yes.
Just one comment. If there was meetings going on at Bella's between Mayor Schultz and other individuals, I certainly wasn't a part of them and had no knowledge of them. And just want to make that clear. And I just wanted to clear that up, that I don't operate that way, never have, and don't intend to.
Okay.
With no other comments, I did receive a request for closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition, or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned?
I'll move.
Second.
Motion seconded to approve. Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Rudin.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Motion carried.